Hello and welcome to the champion bracket. So, first things first, let me make sure I put this on bracket. Yeah, double elimination, because need to make sure. I want to give a special shout out to Command Execute for being the first person to ever get farmers out of the subpools and into the championship. So, very well done, Command Execute. I'd also like to mention the first 7 on this list won their subpools, but because there weren't enough fleets, I added the second place entries from each of the subpools as well. And let's go ahead and get this going. It's a very Tinkerel heavy championship though. It's gonna be rough for some people. And so up first we have Extrip 7 up against Quan, which they're both rely on long-range Terran weapons, but Quan is definitely feeling more hit points, which I think is going to work out in his favor. As you can see, Quan immediately building up a bit of a point lead. Yeah, I feel like there's a lot of fragile fleets, like Excerpt 7's fleet and Quan's fleet rely on fragile damage output, and I don't think they're going to have a good time with the kiters that are all over the place. Like there's a lot of Tinkerel. But you can see Quan building up a really solid point lead here in round 1. Quan is here to fight. Hi, Pupper. Hi, little guy. Oh, you're so fidgety. You're so fidgety. Need to run this little guy around later. Yeah, the murder orbs for Quan are working out very well in this matchup. And in general, actually, they've been getting some results just across the board. As round 1 goes in favor of Quan. And with how round 1 went, I wouldn't be too surprised if round 2 went about the same. Extrip 7's using some nice splashed weapons as well, but Quan's Murder Orb and Kiter are too fast to fall for that kind of crap. And so you can see they're just kind of dancing around it. And with the 2 Murder Orbs just kind of doing whatever they want. And another big point lead in Quan's favor. Looks like Quan will be winning his first match of the bracket. And yeah, most of my ships I aimed for either 500p or 1000. You can actually get very punchy ships for 500 points. And yeah, they don't take forever to design and build either. You could also do what Swinner did and spend almost an entire month working on a 250p ship. And up next we have the Cryo Phoenix Purifiers up against the drones, maybe. The Tinkerel fight before for Fly Paste was a bit of a struggle, but this is a different kind of Tinkerel fleet, and it definitely seems to be having a hard time escaping the rushers. Though that said, the large Purifier definitely packs enough punch to tear things apart. On the back pedal, it just ruined a bunch of Fly Paste's distractors. And it's now coming for the carriers. It's a sad day to be a drone fleet. I don't think Iceborne will fare overly well against Grumpy. His weapons are too focused, and Grumpy is very recoil-centric, making it hard to predict, and therefore arcing shots tend to do very well. And, you know, even a tough Tinkerel ship is still paper. So arcing shots are generally your best bet against Tinkerel. Hi, little guy. What are you doing? Why are you so fidgety, huh? There you go. You can be a four-pupper. Yeah. And Iceborne takes round 1. Wouldn't be too surprised if round 2 went about the same. I think the biggest problem Flypaste's fleet is having is that his ships are pretty fast and can close the distance, but his damage is a little too spread out. If you look at, he's got the proton beams, but they're shooting 2 or 3 of the different shields, which isn't going to make them terribly productive. They're keeping up with the ship just fine, but if you can't punch through the shield, then it doesn't really matter. And the drones, which are a very large portion of his investment, can't even catch the large purifier. Terabot, you, the subpool was not kind to your fleet, unfortunately. It was close fights, but they didn't make it to the champion bracket, unfortunately. And Iceborne takes the match. So up next we have Flypaste up against Exter. I feel like here Flypaste is going to do a lot better with the speed that his ships can actually catch up to stuff, and the fact that Terran shields are vastly weaker than Tinkerl shields, I think is going to pan out really well for Flypaste. Although that said, Exter 7 did build up a pretty big point lead in the beginning. But the match is far from over. Yeah. If your idea for a new fleet is largely centered around drones, I wouldn't worry about those getting any sort of rules restricted to them. But a lot of that boils down to the fact that Terran drones are really, really bad against fast targets. Yeah, unfortunately the AI can't broadside in this game, so if you mount all your weapons on the side, the game will just treat that like the front. What I'd really like to do is be able to get the AI to do specific things, like mount a bunch of Tinkerl, or like mount a bunch of antimatters on the side and have it orbit the target and fire the antimatters at it, so it's constantly moving in a circle. That would be nice. Does look like round 1 is going to go to Exter 7 though. But yeah, the AI doesn't care what direction you want the ship to go. It will choose its directions on its own, and if you put all the guns facing the sides, it'll just pick one of those to be the front and try to do that. Yeah, or, as Alfeather is pointing out, it'll do the even worse decision of not pointing its main guns at the target at all, which isn't better. And an even stronger start for Exter 7 this time around. Not looking great for Flypaste here, unfortunately. Have a good one, Terabot. Thank you for joining us. Yeah, I went ahead and decompiled the game and changed it so that if fly paste is in the name of the fleet, then it always gets matched up against exactly what it can't beat. Because it seemed like a good idea at the time. And it still does. And Excerpt 7 takes it. So now we have FGD up against Death Knot Taxis. We might finally get to see Death Knot Taxis' ship transform into its second phase. But you can see just how punchy those cannons are on FGD's ships. But at the same time, they seem to be struggling to deal with the long-range projection from D&T's fleet. The torpedo is just doing wonders. The downside to using slow tank roll is that they are extremely vulnerable to long-range hostile weapons. As we saw in the subpools, FGD struggled against the crystalline missiles, and now it's rockets and torpedoes, which are much faster. FGD's putting up a good bit of points, but D&T having the lead is pretty solid, and FGD is running out of room to backpedal. And it's worth noting that D&T, I mentioned it earlier in the subpool, but this is his first tournament participation, at least in an NMSS tournament. Doing very well. But the points are close. One or two torpedoes might just change how this is looking though. FGD is down about 600 points, but he's already broken most of what he's shooting now, so he's barely scoring anything despite connecting pretty regularly. Although with the ship getting turned around, that's not beneficial. They did kill one of the big guys from D&T's fleet, but it kind of just alphaed its way through and killed the core without really giving it a chance to disconnect and do its multi-stage trick. And D&T takes round one. Very close, but ultimately in favor of D&T. And now D&T off to a pretty strong lead here. The big problem is the only real weapons D&T has that can reach FGD's fleets are the drones and the torpedoes, and maybe rockets. I think if he has any of those, I don't really remember. But the bulk of FGD's fleet is too far away for D&T to really project effectively. And the problem with all of the weapons that FGD can use is that they can get shot by those volleys from... Or the problem D&T has against FGD is that FGD's volleys can take out the bulk of D&T's force projection. But that said, you can see the distractors up on the top of the screen, kind of messing with some stuff. Those drones on the back, though, scoring quite a few points, but the recoil may have just saved FGD's ship. And with a very, very large point lead coming into the last minute, I'm thinking D&T is going to have this one on lockdown. And D&T taking a very convincing round 2. An excellent showing. Next up we have Simple Chrome up against Insane Asylum. This is Insane Asylum's first tournament as well, but given the similarities between these two, I'm not entirely sure how this one's going to go. Both of them are cannon-heavy Sentinel fleets, but I feel like Simple Chrome probably is going to have the advantage here because he has spaced armor, so he'll be taking less damage per shot, and he has better focusing of fire, especially since those two laser witches in the bottom of the screen are hanging out together. And of course, when melee blocks combine or collide with melee blocks, then nothing really happens. Insane Asylum doing really good though, cleaning up the distractors, but at this point, it's just the big ships left from Simple Chrome, and those were always going to be the problem for Insane Asylum's fleet. They did kill one of the laser witches, which is pretty impressive and by itself. The laser witches so far have been pretty much completely unable to bring the Gauss beams to the target. The Insane Asylum keeps attacking from the side. And it's actually working out rather well. You can see the point lead in Insane Asylum's favor. The Thunder King is making steady progress, but I don't think it's going to be able to catch up in the time that's left. And Insane Asylum should be taking round 1, I think. And Insane Asylum wins round 1. And yeah, see, last night I ended up not being able to run the tournament, so started this evening. You can see, even despite an early lead in Summercrome's favor, the Cuddle Bunnies have clawed back a solid point advantage now, and with just the 2 ships left for Sumpo, it looks like Insane Asylum will be taking the match. And Insane Asylum wins. So next up we have FGD up against Simplecrum. See how this goes. FGD has colossal alpha, but Simplecrum, because he's Sentinel, gets a lot more durability than most of the targets FGD's been shooting so far. I don't know that FGD is actually going to be able to kill things before he runs out of space to retreat. I like that the 2 ships from FGD ended up pushing Simplecrum's Thunder King back. No, see, if we did all the brackets, this is the champion pool. There were 27 participants, something like that. All sorts of people. He's good. He's back to eating dry food. He got all his toys back today. So I got him some racquetballs. Because the vet said that he needed softer things to chew on than tennis balls and chuckets. So he's got racquetballs now, which have the bonus fun of being super bouncy. And FGD takes round 1. It's hard to say how Miku would have fared. FGD actually has a bunch of point defense, unlike the Tinkerel from the brackets Miku was in. Yeah, pretty healthy lead build up for Simplecom, but now FGD gets to play the circle game. Yeah, like the antennae on the snails that Armor uses. Try and pin them on the wall and keep them there. There we go, crab sentinels. And this is a problem for FGD's fleet right here. This is what bad times look like. And Simple takes round 2. Yeah, as far as distractors go, Simples are pretty durable, but FGD's ships deal irrational amounts of damage. This is going pretty poorly for Simple, though. The Thunder King seems to have forgotten which direction he needs to go, and that's not great. FGD is putting up a ton of points. I don't think Simple's necessarily out of it yet, but he is definitely fighting an uphill battle now. FGD gets to play the circle game. Simple is taking a lot of damage. Yeah, actually I don't think he'll be able to claw this one back. I think FGD is going to take it. Although how great would that be if that laser witch just like alphaed 3 ships? Brought it right back. And up next we have Margaret Chris up against Command Execute. Yeah, Command Execute might not be too terrible here. The farmer shields are fairly resilient relative to the damage output of antimatters, but the fact that the kiters from Command Execute are hell-bent on closing into point blank is not doing him any favors. If it weren't for that, or no, even despite that, Command Execute takes round 1. The first armor fleet to make it to the champs is also doing well in the champs. What are the odds? Now let's see what happens. Apparently this time they've decided to be a little bit less blindly aggressive. And it's actually not working out so well. Maybe I was wrong. As Marg looks like he's going to be taking round 2. I don't know, this big ship's holding on a little longer than I was expecting. But I think it's just a matter of time. And yeah, I do think the kiters from Marg have too many point defense weapons, because of the fact that it chooses its range based on trying to apply a percentage of its DPS. Having a bunch of point defense weapons on the kiter or on the antimatter kiters is causing them to be antimatter brawlers. Ooh, that was unfortunate for the fleet though. For Command Execute getting his big ships taken apart, but in this duel here, Command Execute seems to have won. And next up we have Luminars by Splinter up against the fleet by Debris. Debris' fleet I recall being a little bit faster than Simple's, but Splinter's is much faster than FGD's was. So I'm thinking Splinter probably has the advantage here. I don't know that Debris really has an answer for what Splinter's bringing to the table. All 17 of those kills are just the distractors, which aren't that important for Splinter's fleet. Although yeah, the wall has done Splinter no favors, and Debris is going to be taking round 1. No, on Earthly Xbox, I don't believe there was an update. There might have been something with the beta, and you might have mods you're subscribed to that updated, but the regular game didn't. No. If you're responding to the music, it's because I have a mod that I'm using to change the background music since I got tired of listening to the same 2-minute song after 2 years. And yeah, Splinter's doing better this time, but Debris has taken a point lead here with 45 seconds left on the clock. And Debris takes the match. So up next we have Splinter against Margaret, and I'm sorry Margaret, but I cannot bet against Tinkrels in a kiter fight. That's just not a thing that I'm willing to do. And up next we have Icemorn against Quan. Again, in a predominantly ranged fight against Tinkrel. I can't imagine Quan is going to get the better end of the deal. Although that said, Icemorn's largest ship does tend to be very disrespectful, but at the same time, Quan, half of his value was in that kiter and he just lost it. Can never trust the AI, really. It's gonna be really funny when Debris won last time, I think, with a Tinkeril fleet. And so now there's a bunch of Tinkeril fleets. And then Debris wins with the Sentinel fleet against all the Tinkeril fleets. I think that'd be pretty funny. And round 1 goes to Iceborne. Ooh, the big ship down from Iceborne. That could be a problem for his fleet, as the murder balls run around doing murder ball things. Oh, the murder ball got killed. So never mind then, maybe, I guess. Yeah, basically. Welcome to the abuse bracket. Actually, where was, Iceborne was actually the second fleet I received. So, by all rights, he's not even the abuse bracket. That's, and yeah, looking nice, historically, has not been, has not had a strong correlation with victory. And next up we have Quan up against Exterp 7. I think Exterp 7's probably going to win this one. Or Quan's going to probably win this one. The murder balls have been doing very well when they don't suicide. And the kiter from Quan has just been a monster. But yeah, Iceborne actually sent the he actually sent the purifiers in for the raid boss too. Or at least some of them. Hey Quan, thank you for joining us. Yeah, this is the champion bracket. You were number 2 in your pool, Quan. And that's going to be round 1 in favor of Quan. And given how round 1 went, I think round 2 is probably going to be pretty similar. And Quan takes the match. So up next we have Insane Asylum against Death Not Taxes. This could be an interesting fight. The torpedoes I think are going to be a big problem for Insane Asylum. But that said, you can see the melee spikes just digging into those ships. Very big point lead for Insane Asylum though. I'm thinking he's gonna have round 1. I don't know that the drones are gonna be able to do enough damage to bring it back, even if he can't get anywhere with it. Yeah, and I think there have been people that have been complaining about how melee is useless ever since I changed the CVAR in the tournament mod. It's like one of those serial animes that they ran out of ideas for plot a long time ago, so they just keep going in circles. Insane Asylum definitely coming out of the gate hard, though. A very, very solid submission. The problem is that a lot of the best weapons that the Sentinels have against kiters had to be banned because they're bugged or obviously just a broken mechanic. D&T trying to claw back, but I don't think there's enough time to make up that much difference. A valiant effort nonetheless. Yeah, like Obliterator magic. One of the problems. And round one's going to be going to Insane Asylum here. And with another very large point lead in favor of Insane Asylum, I think we're going to see this one go the same way as the last. Only a minute on the clock, and I don't think D&T can score enough to cover that point gap. Yeah, Dalek, unfortunately your fleet didn't counter very effectively. And Insane Asylum takes the match. So next up we have D&T versus FGD. These two already fought once in the pool, and D&T managed to pull it through rather solidly. I'm thinking he might be able to do it again, but I suppose we'll see here in a moment. And again, early point lead going in favor of FGD, but I recall that generally being how it went last time too. Could be mistaken, but I'm pretty sure that's how it went. And yeah, the important part is that only one ship is down for D&T's fleet. A minute and a half in, or a minute in rather. Yeah, it's no concern is usually what the villain says right before the hero does some cheeky maneuver to win and save the day. It does look like FGD will be taking round one here. I don't remember if it was a 2-1 or a 2-0 win last time, but these two fleets are both having a difficult time actually killing each other. And some of those torpedoes, yeah, some of those torpedoes definitely found purchase. Took apart the bulk of one of FGD's ships. The ship is still alive, but it's crippled for quite some time. But here though you can see DNT actually has the point lead, whereas before it was FGD pretty much the entire time. That bodes very well for DNT, but very poorly for FGD. And since this is an elimination match, whoever loses this matchup is out of the bracket. Not a great spot to be in. As the point gap widens a bit. A red tourney would look like a lot of explosions and a ton of bullets. Okay, I can skip the rest of the round. And the cannon of one of FGD's ships got blown off. And DNT putting up a pretty sizable point lead here. Yeah, and again I'd like to reiterate that DNT, this is his first tournament showing. He is doing a fantastic job so far. And skipping the rest of that one. And now we have Quan up against DNT. I don't remember if these two fought. They did not. Right, of course, because DNT is first time. Neophyte pool. I'm not really entirely sure what to make of how this one is likely to go. It could pretty much go either way as far as I can tell. I think Quan's Kiter is going to have a hard time dealing with the orb ships, but at the same time I don't know that DNT's ships are going to have a very effective answer for the Kiter. DNT does seem to have a bit of a point lead early on, though. Yeah, I don't know, Splinter. It's a pretty solid question. I think I would have to go with probably D&T, if only because Quan has so much value in that single ship. And, you know, I don't like putting a lot of eggs in one basket. We did get to see the pod there go into its second stage, which was pretty awesome. And then it got run down by the kiter, which was also awesome. The score is pretty close, but I think D&T will probably end up taking this one. But it's close enough for me to believe that it could go either way. I thought Armfor always did the... His designs were always spongy, but he always did that, like, snail-shaped, right? With, the reliance on lasers, too, yeah. But, I don't think Armor Forever did the spaced armor. Yeah, this is the heavy foot brigade instead of the light foot. We finally know where it's been all the time. The way that he connected the stages also reminds me of Splinter's spinners. Back when Splinter got delayed spinners banned. The way he connected them kind of reminds me of that. Yeah, that little ejector pod thing is working out fairly well. And D&T with a decent little lead again. Holding his own very well. And Quan rolling in, Kiter wrecking house, clawing back a very hefty lead. Gonna take this one to round 3, it looks like. And you know, of course, the super time dilating match always goes to round 3. Because why wouldn't it? And it looks like Quan is off to another solid round this time. Still quite a ways to go, but doing well so far. Yep, does look like we're going to see Quan take the match. Still a very good showing from D&T. And yep, this one is all but over. Kind of wondering now though how D&T managed to win before, because these last two rounds were very convincing for Quan. Not even sure. I think a lot of it is owed to the fact that the tank for Quan has been distracting the orbs for so long. It ends up just exposing its back to incoming fire from the kiter. And when that happens, the ships just aren't long for the world. It's just kind of how it works. And Quan takes it. Alright, so next up we have Debris against Command Execute. And as much as I'd like to see otherwise, I don't think Command Execute's in the best position here. Command Execute's Kiter's doing a pretty good job though so far. They happen to be fast enough to keep away, and they've scored enough points that they might just put debris in the losers bracket, which is surprising to say the least. I certainly wouldn't have expected farmers to beat Sentinels under pretty much any condition. But Command Execute takes round 1. And I think that might have just sealed it. Round 2 in favor of debris. In the last split second, could not have been much cooler, or much closer. Still though, going to a third round against Sentinels is, especially as farmers, super hard to do and very impressive. Let no one take this from you, Command Execute. You are the first farmer to make it to the champion pool. And yeah, generally speaking, base hugging sentinel ships is ill-advised. But here we are now. And Command Execute takes the match. Showing us all that he didn't get here by a fluke. But now we have Splinter against Debris, which I know Splinter was really looking forward to. What's even the point, man? What's even the point? Splinter doing... sitting precariously, but holding on alright. So far, as long as that one gets out, that it didn't. So never mind. Never mind. And round one going to Debris. And let's not forget that Debris is the one that sent Splinter to this pool. Or to this side of the bracket. Which I'm sure feels wonderful to be fighting him now. The real question, I think, is how much fingernails do you think Splinter has left at this point? Because I don't think it's any. I think by now he's chewed them off completely. But we do have a round 3 between Splinter and Debris. The Psycho soundtrack, I don't think I have it, but I could look into it. I've got some other things on my list though. Stuff I can use as background music for reassembly tournaments and all that. And Debris. So next up we have Not Kiter by Quantum Reactor up against Duke Slayer. And I can't feel like this is going to go in Quantum Reactor's favor. The angled shots from Duke's ships are perfect for dealing with long-range ships from other factions. And Duke Slayer takes round 1. Yeah, I'm sorry guys, I'm gonna have to pass on the grudge match. I'm burning out here. I will get the fleets up as soon as I can though, and you can grudge match the hell out of yourselves. Yeah, my bad. So we're now looking at debris versus quantum reactor, and I don't think quantum reactor is going to have anything he needs to win this fight. He did a very good job by getting here in his first tournament, but debris has just been kind of stomping on most things. And that's correct. No Gauss beams on debris sheet or on debris fleet. Just cannons and spikes. But that's really all you need. Unless you're fighting farmers, apparently. Then you probably need the Gauss beams. And debris takes round 1. Can't imagine round 2 is going to go a whole lot different. The fleet from Quantum Reactor doesn't really have the damage output to punch through all this armor. The missiles are reliable and capable of hitting it with high accuracy at long range, but against Sentinels you really need something punchy. And missiles, unfortunately, are not punchy. They're more like slap fighting. Yeah, Mons is dying. I need Well, like, farmer missiles and Terran missiles are very different. Yeah, I mean, what is it? Stream's been going for 6.5 hours now. I think it's a pretty long stream. Yeah, here in the champ pool, or the champ bracket, we're getting a lot of 3-round matches, a lot of matches going to time, and we had the time dilation with Kwan and D&T. And Debris takes the match. So next up we have Iceborne against Insane Asylum. Some pretty poor decision making from the large ship from Iceborne. Just narrowly missing very dangerous things a few times. And Insane Asylum takes it. Have a good one, FGD. Appreciate you joining us. And it's looking like a Sand Asylum will be taking round 2 as well. And now we have Quan up against Iceborne. I think we've seen this fight already once. Yeah. Iceborne was the reason Quan was on this side of the bracket. But this time Iceborne's ships seem to be a little less or at least seemed to be. They seem to have figured it out now. They were not giving the respect that the tank or that the fleet from Quan was due. And I think we're going to see Iceborne taking the match again. Not terribly surprising, as Iceborne sent Quan to this side of the bracket to begin with, but we have seen some upsets already. And now we have Duke Slayer up against Command Execute. So it's cheer on Command Execute. Pretty sure you can win this. By the way, that is probably not happening. Duke Slayer takes the match. So now, what do we got? Debris versus Command Execute. Uh-oh, Debris. Uh-oh, Debris. Yeah, Arthur didn't code the double elimination bracket correctly, and as a result, you get a lot of rematches in the second set. Which really shouldn't be the case. They should be seated so that you're on the other side of the bracket from the person that put you there. Debris looks like he might just take round 2 though. Although I think this is the first round he's taken off of Command Execute after several attempts. That doesn't necessarily mean he's going to win the match, but it does mean he has the potential. And that's it for Command Execute this round. And Debris takes the match, beating the person that sent him into the right side. And now we have Debris against Icemorn, and here I'm feeling like Debris still has the advantage. Icemorn's largest ship has been pretty disrespectful, and Debris has done a very good job against all the tanks he's fought so far. Yeah, Duke. Turns out you leave to go to the bathroom and then debris becomes your worst nightmare. It's one of those times you just write off that pair of pants. Oh, Ice Martin holding up very well. But almost got that big guy trapped several times, and that would obviously change some things. And Iceborne takes it. So now we have Duke up against Insane Asylum. And I think both of them were kind of worried about this matchup. bumper's doing a good job of keeping their distance and keeping moving now. And yeah, you'll probably end up chasing the little ones forever. Duke Slayer's distractors are really effective. Well, Bunny's fleet is fairly quick, and every one of them is good at melee. So if your Tinkle ship messes up for just a second, and gets caught on the wall, then it just kind of gets ruined, and that's the end of it. And now we have Icemorn up against Duke Slayer. I'm feeling like Duke Slayer has the advantage here, mostly because in Tinkerl on Tinkerl fights, having that spread shot is super useful. Although, actually Iceborne is cleaning house. So, Mons didn't know shit. Guess the numbers advantage is kind of what happened there. This last distractor gets run down. But then a very quick win for Duke. That's more or less what I was expecting on the other one. Yeah, it looks like Duke's gonna take this round as well. And Duke takes it. So now here we are at the finals. Insane Asylum against Duke, and we just saw this match like 30 seconds ago, so unless something changes, I'm thinking Insane Asylum, who's making his tournament debut, will be taking the entire tournament. And the bumpers are going to take round one, it looks like. don't think they're ever really gonna kill the bunnies, but they, as long as they don't get caught. Duke being the big bad here. And with all three of the bumpers up in one corner, that's not great. Two of them escaped. The third is escaping though. So what would you say your heart rate's at, Duke? 200, 250, somewhere around there? And Duke takes it. So, congratulations, Duke. And also, you're a monster. You, on Insane Asylum, almost had his first championship on his debut. So, you're a jerk, Duke. Duke, the jerk. Alright. Have a good one, and I hope you enjoyed.